Hello, everyone, and welcome to What If Deku Had the Sharingan Part 2. In the end of last part, we got into UA, Mineta got expelled, and Deku unlocked his 3 Tomo Sharingan. Let's get into Part 2, shall we? Classes remain as normal after the first day. No more sudden tests pulled by Aizawa. He was satisfied for now. The class sat, bickering with one another, getting to know each other. Deku would be talking to my boy Tokuyami on some dark emo shit, you know. All Might would suddenly pop through the door like a regular person. Deku would crack a smile, glad to be able to see All Might again. Looking over him though, it's like his aura had faded. The damage spot's still there, but overall his power had seemed to fade a little bit since they last spoke. Deku shrugs this off, and they all make their way outside to grab their hero costumes. Deku would Loki take some inspo from Aizawa with the goggles. Aizawa would actually give him a set as he respected him so much, you know. And he would rock an all black like onesie with a white rope belt. I don't know. Sasuke used to wear it at one point. I think it looked clean. Not on some Prada shit. All Might explains how the battles will work, showing his little box of lots to the class and getting each student to pick one. Deku would be paired with Uraraka and would be acting against Bakugo and Ida. Deku clenched his fist and looked down, covering his smile. Deku and Uraraka explained each other's quirks to each other as they walked through the entrance. Whoa, so you see everything slow? Uraraka would say. Deku would nod. Deku would go on to explain his other powers too, saying so far no one but him and his mum know about the other two powers. Oh, and All Might. The bell rings, cutting them off. Deku looks determined and they run in together, searching the first floor before running to the second. Bakugo comes in blasting around the corner and flies at Deku at top speed. Deku tells Uraraka to run and call in when the bomb is found. Uraraka nods and runs off. Deku's smile widens. Bakugo throws an obvious right hook which Deku easily sees, dodging left before it even gets thrown, delivering a mean liver shot. Bakugo's eyes widen. He drops to his knee, feeling woozy. The class stares in shock. Kirishima is in the back hitting the "Hey!" Bakugo gets up, stammering to his feet, his hands cackling with explosions. The class looks on in shock, Bakugo lifting his arm up and holding it to a pin. All Might screams, "No, stop! You'll kill him!" It was too late. A massive explosion engulfed most of the hallway. Deku, before the attack was pulled, saw the sweat stored in the gauntlets light up. Sensing something was up, he jumped back and rolled down the staircase, ducking for cover. The explosion missed him, burning his shoe as he jumped. Deku looked at this with a serious look. He would then walk back up the stairs. Staring Bakugo in the eye, his tomo would start shifting in both eyes. Bakugo suddenly dropping to the floor, passing out. The surge being more than enough to finish Bakugo off due to his previous injuries. Deku would run up to the stairs, bouncing off the walls, finding Uraraka at the entrance. He would approach and they would both look in, Deku distracting as Uraraka floated above them and touched the bomb. Deku walked in and watched and runs at Ida, who was surprised by his speed. He attempts a kick, which Deku grabs, spinning him around before lifting him up and slamming him on the floor, capturing him with a capture tape for good measure. All Might screams over the intercom, "Hero team wins! A flawless victory." Ida gets embarrassed by Deku, so he doesn't get class leader. I'm gonna say Kirishima does, because I don't know, he's kind of cool. Aizawa also pulls Deku aside and points this and decides to teach him to use his scarf, which Deku picks up on instantly after watching him. Aizawa praises him as a prodigy and Deku tells him about the real part of his quirk. After regular school would go down, Deku would be in class, waiting for the bus to arrive to the USJ, recite a rescue training opportunity. Deku wasn't much of a rescue hero, being more of an in-and-out type of guy. He would go in anyway as he needed as much training as he could get. The bus arrives and before they leave, Deku grabs his scarf, stuffing it into his bag, hopping on, driving to the USJ. The class talks amongst themselves and they do the ranking thing, putting Deku at second to Todoroki and Bakugo third. This pisses Bakugo off, him screaming at the back of the bus. Froppy asks Deku what his quirk does and Deku explains the Eye of Insight to her and the class, wanting to keep his surge ability hidden for the rest of the UA Sports Festival. The class in common The class would all say as a common ooh, making sense of why Bakugo got bitched in the Heroes vs Villain test. They would arrive at the USJ, hopping off before the bus would take off again. Stepping in, they would gawk at how big the place is, seeing waterfalls, fire spots, a whole jungle. Deku looked around, seeing 13 walking in with a class towards her. 13 would make her speech on how quirks are dangerous, Deku not really caring at all, as his quirk isn't destructive or anything. Turning around and looking around some more, he would notice a spike of life energy in the middle of the USJ, alerting Aizawa someone's here. Immediately, he would take charge, before Aizawa does, by the way, sending Ida to get assistance immediately, and that there are villains that have intruded. Aizawa would jump down, reassuring Deku he was going to be fine and that he was a pro for a reason. Not even thinking, follows him down, much to the dismay of 13, putting his scarf out of his bag. The rest of the class watches Deku and Ozawa use their scarves to body the fodder villains, Deku being more efficient than even Ozawa using it. In many ways he didn't even think was possible. The rest of the class watching on as the session was interrupted by Korogiri, who warped him across the USJ, not even noticing Ida had dipped already. Deku and Ozawa would keep fighting on, seeing a tall black figure accompanied by a mist man with hands all over him. Figure's life energy was surging, but strange. Its pathway is not connected properly. He gives Aizawa a heads up, but it's too late. No, kill the pro. Shigaraki would speak. Nomu rushing at the distracted pro. Deku tries to jump in the way, not being fast enough. Knowing that his teacher would die if he doesn't do anything now, his Tomo would morph and his sharp pain would be felt in both eyes, blood leaking out of them. A green Susanoo arm would appear, cracked but not broken, in front of Aizawa. Deku stumbles onto his feet, almost falling before looking at the Nomu. His eyes a different shade than before. Deku feels power like he's never felt before, and a pain like he's never felt before. He barely stays conscious before activating one more technique. Almost on instinct, Deku's left eye would open wide and look at the Nomu. The Nomu would shriek as it would begin to be crushed under an immense force. The Nomu tries to fight back, but can't, being crushed but not killed. Deku would pass out and Shigaraki would start tweaking, saying he cheated. The Nomu would regenerate and look at Aizawa, looking to finish the job. Still dumbfounded with Deku's newfound strength, the doors would swing open, showing All Might standing proud and pissed, supported by many pro heroes on deck. Nomu and All Might go at it, with Aizawa to back him up this time, getting it obliterated much sooner than in canon. All Might would look at Shigaraki, who was about to go through a portal to escape. Deku looks up and using his second Mangekyo ability would block the usage of Korogiri's quirk, allowing for them to be captured by All Might and locked the fuck up. All Might looks at Aizawa, thanking him for the assist. Aizawa looks around worried, saying he didn't do that. Deku was then rushed to the hospital with bandages being put around his eyes so they can heal after his new awakening. They get a week off to heal and go back to school again. Deku would show up with the bandages still over his eyes. People would ask him about this, and he would explain that he could somewhat see, but just the outlines. They all shrug and Aizawa comes in, explaining the UA Sports Festival was coming up. Everyone gets excited and Aizawa gives them all a week to train. Deku would use his week to focus on his force ability, learning to control its output, just to knock down, not to crush, thinking it could be useful in battle, adding weight to an opponent so they can't fly or they're slowed down a lot. Deku notices that every time he activates his Mangekyo, his whole body would be in pain, followed by a sharp pain in his eyes. Due to this, he would limit it to once a day max, not even trying his Susanoo yet. They would all arrive at school again after the week off. Deku walking into the changing room, looking around at everyone. You could tell they'd grown since the USJ incident, making him smile. He's then approached by Todoroki and Bakugo, both insistent that today was war, and they were going to bring it. They would all walk out into the middle of the grounds, the crowd going nuts. Bakugo would be called out to come forward. He would do his speech, this time looking at Deku directly in the eyes. The wheel is spun and the obstacle race is selected. They all line up in class order and 1A at the front. The bell would be called and Deku would see Todoroki charging his ice side. Deku jumps and pushing off Kirishima, who was beside him, apologizing while doing so. He would run, being at first place tied with Todoroki and Bakugo. They would all start fighting while running, throwing kicks and punches. Deku was in the middle of this squabble, looking both left and right to dodge each attack separately. He'd push them both back before looking forward and seeing some zero pointers. He was sure he could take one down with his new ability, but decided it wasn't worth it. He ran to the side, dodging their slow and clunky attack before passing through. Due to this, Todoroki and Baku would go through too. This would leave the zero pointers in this timeline completely fine, as they weren't frozen by Todoroki. The rest of the people would have to deal with this, struggling a little bit, leaving an even bigger gap between the three and the rest. They would continue, being neck and neck the whole way until the mine portion. Deku could see through the rough patches in the floor, seeing where it had been tampered with, giving him an advantage. He begins leaping over the mines, taking bounds towards the finish line. Bakugo would see this and start flying, Todoroki freezing the ground to keep up. They would actually tie in this timeline, which further annoys them all. I'm gonna skip the cavalry battle because that shit's lame. And the 1v1 portion begins. Midnight announces the battles. Deku vs Shinso. Who the hell is Shinso? Deku thinks. The battle will begin and Deku will walk up the staircase, as would Shinso. The crowd will go nuts, yelling Deku's name as he's a fan favorite, his eyes causing him to stand out. They all love how skilled he is without a physical quirk. The round would begin and Shinso would start talking. I'm gonna say Deku would be immune to Shinso's brainwashing in this part, as the Sharingan, can see through illusions like Genjutsu and shit. But either way, Deku would run at Shinso without talking, as he's not much of a talker in this one, knocking him straight out of bounds. Walking away and waiting for his next match, which is kind of disrespectful. He would watch Todoroki and Bakugo's match carefully, analyzing with his Sharingan their fighting styles and seeing what's changed in their power since the entrance exam. The battles would continue as normal, then Deku and Todoroki would be called up. The crowd goes wild, cheering both their names. There's even people who fight over who they think is going to win. The crowd quiets down as the bell rings. Deku, seeing Todoroki was about to use ice, rolls out of the way, shortening the distance between them. Todoroki spams ice, Deku noticing his skin getting more cold. Deku toys with him for a while before Todoroki slams his foot, making a geyser of ice towards him. Deku stands still before closing his eyes, opening Jewel Mangekyo, awakening the Susanoo, who screams, going into its second form, swatting the ice away and obliterating it into snow, which goes all over the crowd. Todoroki is dumbfounded. It quickly dissipates and Deku looks at Todoroki, Mangekyo is still active. He uses his weight technique, only subtly though. Todoroki feels sluggish, not knowing what's going on. Deku capitalizes and starts fighting up close. He would just straight dog him in 1v1. Let's be real. There's nothing he can do. Deku's eyes would begin to hurt, and he decides to finish it, using his surge to overwhelm Todoroki before double leg drop kicking him out of stage. I'm gonna say, due to him using his Mangekyo in this match to block the ice, he was fatigued, so the battle with Bakugo comes, he wouldn't be fighting at 100%, which would cause Bakugo to win in this timeline. Deku being pushed out of the ring, not being able to see stuff coming. Bakugo would be pissed, complaining that he didn't use his full power and that he would kill him. The crowd murmurs, and they all get their rewards, Deku getting second place behind Bakugo. Even Todoroki can't look at Deku. After the sports festival, they go to class and Aizawa gives them the sheets of paper for their interns. In this timeline, I'm going to say that both Aizawa and Night Eye put in office for him. Deku, not knowing who to choose, talked to All Might about it. All Might would think for a second before saying to give Night Eye a chance. He doesn't just give people chances like this out of nowhere. He would agree and would head off to Night Eye Agency to be trained. Aizawa would be a little butthurt, but genuinely impressed that he got an offer from Night Eye. Deku would arrive and would be shown to Night Eye's room by Mirio, who was currently training one for all. Deku would go through the test, keeping up actually, as Deku and his quirks are similar to the Foresight ability. Night Eye will crack a smile and choose to train him personally. Deku would tell Night Eye his secrets about his quirk, about both his eyes' abilities, and also tell him that he thinks All Might is getting weaker, thinking Night Eye would want to know. Also complimenting Mirio on his strength. Night Eye is shocked by how impressive Deku's eyes truly were, not missing a single detail. He would decide to call Mirio in and explain One for All to Deku, thinking it would be a good idea for Mirio and Deku to train these new abilities together. Mirio would of course agree and they would start sparring, Deku being able to hand about 25% of One for All before he gets physically overpowered. He brings out Susanoo the second day and decides to train with it, realizing it can take a 50% smash from Mirio. They're all surprised by this, seeing a crack appear. Deku would concentrate, and in the midst of a sparring session with Mirio one day, he would unlock the third stage of a Susanoo, a face appearing and looking down on Mirio with the same eyes Deku has. Mirio would try a 50% punch, being swatted away. They all go back and forth, and Deku realizes this new form can take about 70% from One for All, impressing even himself before he falls to his knees, trained again. They continue to train for the rest of the week, and Deku learns to control a lower stage of Susanoo for about 5 minutes, being able to go to third stage for about 10 seconds, max, leaving him cooked after. Though he's not at Hosu this time, so Ida does get killed. Rest in peace. I'm gonna skip the final exams as they're kind of boring, and Deku and Bakugo fight against All Might. Like, Deku would show off his third stage and would use his surge ability to block All Might for just enough time to run out. Thank you everyone for watching. That was part 2. Part 3 won't be too long, and it'll probably take like a day to come out. It'll be coming out tomorrow, let's be real. If you like this, please subscribe. I've been putting in like tons of effort into this. It's kind of annoying having to write all these stories out. I might just start freeballing, honestly. It doesn't take too long anyway. If you like these, please subscribe and like these videos. I'll see you next time. Oh, and if you have any suggestions, please put it in the comment section. Alright, thank you.